Tonight, on A Week in League, we'll be talking about the playoffs race, Excel roster changes, AD Leblanc talk, and so much more right after the intro. Welcome to A Week in League, where we cover League of Legends esports all around the globe from all 4 major regions. I'm your host Slomar, and let's just get right into the news. As usual, timestamps and links will be in the description, and while you're down there, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. Thanks. Oh my god. Just when you think things couldn't get any closer in the LPL, the playoff race always delivers. 5 whole playoff spots are still up for grabs in the last week of the LPL. That's just crazy, man. TES have been on a slump, TT is having a great run in this split, WE is having a recent resurgence, and IG have fallen off the map, man. All of this has caused the middle of the pack to be closer than ever. The middle of the pack is only 1 game away from each other, from 6th place all the way down to 11th place. WBG's topside is on the board for the best 5 of Week 9. BLG's AD carry Elk is the best player for Week 9. With the recent WE resurgence, their jungler Heng picks up the Rookie of the Week for Week 9. Anyways, time for Game of the Week! And this week, it's TES versus TT. This game is the perfect way to show you the TES slump and the TT performance. The series goes the distance all the way to 3 games, so it's definitely worth a watch. As I mentioned earlier, the playoff race for the LPL is still extremely close, with 5 slots up for grabs this week. Every game counts and every game matters. Make sure you tune in next week for our continued LPL coverage. This last week in the LCK was the calm before the storm. All the playoff slots were locked in the week before, and pretty much all the games this week went as you'd expect. So rather than talking about the games and looking at the standings, let's take a look at the 6 playoff teams. There's no denying that T1 is a cut above the entire league, and Keria has put on an MVP level performance this split. Not to mention, the rest of the team is still S tier and miles ahead of their competition. Personally, I hate it when the first place all-pro team is just the first place team, but in this case, I think it's well deserved. Every player on T1 is just the best at their role. So if the first team all-pro is all the T1 players and the MVP's Keria, I wouldn't be mad. Anyways, let's talk about Gen G and KT. Gen G and KT are not far behind, and we could very well see a Gen G versus T1 final this split. KT have been performing way better than the sum of their parts, and most people wouldn't have predicted them to be at the top of the standings heading into the split. And while the other 3 teams are mildly impressive, there isn't much to say about them. But who knows, maybe they can make an upset. This year, the LCK playoff format is a little different as they have now added double elimination. In my opinion, this has been a great change, but this is also why it's so hard to predict any of these other teams winning playoffs. I think it's nearly impossible to beat a team like Gen G or T1 in a best of 5. Anyways, the first LCK playoff series is on Wednesday, March 22nd, and the finals are on April 9th, so make sure you come back for our weekly coverage. The group stage race in the LEC has been crazy. Everyone is losing games, including G2 and Vitality. Fnatic managed to win 2 games this week, and the Sad Lions are all the way down in 9th place. What a crazy world we live in. What you see here on the standings will probably cause lots of tiebreakers next week. And you know how we feel about tiebreakers around here. I love me some extra games. BDS, Astralis, and SK are all looking like good teams this split, while Koi and Mad Lions are looking a little shaky if you ask me. Team Heretics still having close games with everyone, and Fnatic may not be last? I don't know, but I'm very excited to see who's gonna make it to groups. Time for Game of the Week! And this week, it's the LEC featured matchup, Vitality versus G2. There were a couple other hype games from the LEC this week, but this one delivered. If you want to watch the battle of Perks versus Caps, that's the game for you. There's been a ton of delays in the last 2 weeks of the LEC, but I'm hoping that things could get resolved before next week's games. With the tiebreakers inbound, we might end up having real long days if the pauses continue. Anyways, make sure you tune in next week for continued LEC coverage. The LCS has just wrapped up the regular split. We even got 3 tiebreakers on the last day. But now, we have all of our playoff contenders. 100 Thieves managed to keep their dreams alive with an impressive run to close out the split. EG has had a shaky end of the split, however, JoJo and other team members were sick, so hopefully they've all recovered by now and they're ready for next week. Golden Guardians clinch out the last playoff spot, all thanks to their middle of the split big win streak. 100 Thieves Doublelift manages to grab the Player of the Week award. And to let you in on a little secret, I'm rooting for 100 Thieves to win this first series against FlyQuest. I think FlyQuest hasn't looked that good lately, and 100 Thieves can definitely bring it on when it comes to the best of 5s because of their veterans. But who knows, that's just my guess. You know what time it is? Time for Game of the Week! And this week, it's the tiebreaker game between CLG and 100 Thieves. This is how 100 Thieves were able to secure 3rd place. The game was a banger, and the interview with Doublelift after the game was also very insightful, so yeah, go watch it. The LCS playoffs starts on Thursday, March 23rd between FlyQuest and 100 Thieves. And like I said, this one's gonna be a banger, and I'm calling it now. So make sure you tune in next week for our continued coverage. Welcome to In Other News, a segment where we discuss news that may or may not be related to LOL Esports. This week's headline is: This just in. Excel confirms Vithio will be stepping down from the LEC starting lineup. Excel has released a statement on Twitter going into a little more detail and announcing that Ablazeolive will be in for the last stretch of the regular split. Everyone knows that Excel's been crumbling for a while, and even if this is a good change, I'm just not sure if it's going to affect their split at all. In other news, a League of Legends pro player forces a game pause after falling ill on stage. This happened during the Team WE vs WBG series. Team WE's Heng was feeling so unwell that he called for a pause to collect himself. Despite this, however, he stayed in, continued the match, and had a great performance in the next 2 games. In other news, TSM subbed out Solo for Hauntzer this last week of the LCS. This will be Hauntzer's first appearance in over 2 years. Personally, I think it's hard to tell who is better, Solo or Hauntzer, since Hauntzer only got 2 games and it was really late into the season, but I think this was TSM's Hail Mary and maybe they make playoffs, but they were unsuccessful. Good luck next split. I don't really know if this is newsworthy, but we're gonna talk about it anyways. Nongshim's Red Force's top laner, Dindin, pulls out AD Leblanc top. This was an official LPL match, and honestly, it looked okay. Who knows if the Stark tech is really good though, or if this was like a canon matchup thing. Anyways, this doesn't mean you go playing LeBlanc top in your solo queue games. In other news, Riot Games to begin testing a quick play mode which will replace blind pick. I've recently had to play some blind pick with friends and it's an experience to say the least. Like, I understand you can't draft when you're a new player and you don't have quite as many champions, but why not give, new players until level 10 all champs or 20 champs or something? And pick ban is such an important part of playing League, I don't know why we're kind of delaying that later anyways. Not to mention the whole not picking a role and spamming in the chat as soon as you get in thing being a great experience, right? Anyways, I'm gonna stop flaming blind pick, and this new game mode could be it. Maybe when the new quick play comes out, I'll level an account to level 30 to see what it's like. In other news, the LCS announces a Spanish stream starting playoffs. I'm not sure if there's much for me to add on here. The details will be in the description, and this seems pretty hype anyways. I hope it can help with the viewership. And speaking of viewership, now that we've wrapped up the split, the LCS maintains viewership in the 2023 spring split, despite schedule and broadcast changes. The data was released by Esports charts, and the link is always in description. I'm gonna be honest, it looked a little scary earlier in the split, but it looks like things have settled down a little bit. The new broadcast direction and segments I'm sure help too, and with the new Spanish stream, I'm hoping we can have some solid playoff viewership. Our last story for the night is about Ablazeolive. The player announced on Twitter that he's retiring from professional play. Ablazeolive said he'll be focused on his personal life for the time being. I wonder if this is at all related to player burnout or any of these things. I also wonder if we're gonna have any real solutions for this problem moving forward. With the Danny news and now this, I don't know, I wonder if it's time for the Players Association to maybe do something. I hate to end the show on a bad note, but that's the end of our show for this week. I'm hoping to release a behind the scenes video in the next few days, so make sure you stay on the lookout for that. Anyways, thank you so much for all the continued support. If you're enjoying the show, please consider subscribing. Have a good night and good luck in solo queue. Woo!